Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's Editor-in-Chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here, the TK Show, recording live from Kawakami Studios, the famous Kawakami Studios, and really happy to have on as my guest someone that is a big sports fan. I've seen him at Warriors games, and you might know him fairly well. He's the co-founder and CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey. Jack, great to have you on the show. How you doing this morning?
Thanks for having me. Really good.
Yeah. When we first started talking about doing this show a couple months ago, it was a pretty quiet time. And then since then, some things have happened. We don't have to get too far into it. I want to talk to you about sports and other things. But since we've talked, it's been a little trip to Washington, D.C., some other things. I just wonder, for someone, you're a soft-spoken guy, generally, is my understanding. I mean, being kind of thrust into the limelight, has that been a comfortable experience for you? Has that taken some adjustment for you?
It's definitely been surreal. It's been a learning experience, but part of my job is to make sure we're telling our story and doing it in an authentic and genuine way. And I'm proud that we were able to first be up there to talk about Twitter and what we're focused on, and then second that we could actually speak directly to the American people about what we're seeing, what we know, and what we don't know.
Now, there were some other tech industry leaders who did not show up or did not go to the congressional hearings. Did you ever think about not going, or was it always, let's get out there and let's talk about Twitter?
We decided to, be excited about showing up and being present. I think it's really important that we share how we're thinking, and we're, very honest about where we are and what we don't know, because the most important thing that we can do right now is to really communicate so that we can earn trust. So many people use a service, and it would be easy to go down a path of distrusting something, but as long as we're putting a human face on it and we're showing how we think about it, I think we have the potential to earn a lot more trust.
I just want to say, I booked this show. We and I talked about it, about being kind of about sports and social media and Twitter's role. So this is not going to be an inquisition. And if anybody wants to take heat give it to me, because this is my show. This is the way I'm taking it. But I did want to talk about this generally. I mean, this is what I totally believe about Twitter and all social media platforms. It's a town hall. It's a public square. There's going to be some ugly things. There's going to be some great things, and you can't restrict things you don't like necessarily just because you don't like them. It's freedom of expression, and that's what I hear from you. That's what I sense from you. Is that generally the message you're giving, or are you taking some steps to maybe there's ways to kind of get into this without limiting people's expression?
Well, we do. I mean, you're spot on. We do believe that a lot of people see Twitter as a public square, and therefore have very similar expectations as they would when entering in a public square. But the reality is today that all technologies, make things easier. They change the velocity, they increase the velocity, they ideally increase the number of people who can participate. So the level of accessibility goes way up. But what that means also is that there's more risk to someone being silenced, someone not being able to freely express themselves, not being able to, really have their right to freedom of speech. So we've taken on an objective as a company, realizing that people do see us as a public square. We want to make sure that what happens in the public square, more and more people are choosing healthier discourse and healthier dialogue, and not gaming our systems in order to silence another. And that's what we've seen, not just on Twitter, but more broadly on the internet, is a lot of harassment, a lot of abuse, and all with the intention of utilizing these systems to make someone feel that they can't participate, make someone feel that they can't voice their opinion. And everyone loses if that's the case. We benefit from a variety of perspective. We benefit from seeing a bunch of ideas and different ideas from different backgrounds. And as you say, it is a reflection of the current state of the world, and there's some things that might resonate in a great way with us, and some things that, wow, we need to really be honest with ourselves and look at that and address it. And the only way that that can actually happen is if people feel free to express themselves in the first place. But at the same time, technology can be used in a way that is gamed in order to target and to harass others into not even participating in the first place. And that's what we're trying to protect against.
How personally do you get involved, almost on a case by case basis on this now, Jack? I mean, you're the one who testified before Congress. Do you take this personally at this point?
I mean, I definitely feel the ramifications of our service personally, and we do recognize that more and more of what happens online has real world offline ramifications. So we need to be mindful of the consequences of activities online and how they translate to offline activities, and that's never been more evident than in the past 3 years. But we also want to build a company and a service that's not dependent upon one person. So I rarely get into the decision-making conversations around any one of our particular cases. We need to build durable and rigorous policy that people can understand and is transparent and easy to comprehend. And that's where I think we have the greatest opportunity to improve. Our terms of service and our rules have been a little bit opaque, and a lot of people have had to guess what our intention is rather than see it out in front. But ultimately, we want to build a system that can be trusted and is not dependent upon one person making a decision, but feels like I can see it. It's fair. I may not agree with everything, but there it is, and that's how they're enforcing. And that's where, as I said, like we have the greatest opportunity to improve is just the clarity of our rules and the enforcement thereof.
Now, you yourself have become, a little flashpoint, and people tweet to you. And I wouldn't know about that, people tweeting angry things. I don't know how, I don't get that part. But do you get emotional sometimes? And hey, here's the question I always want. Jack, have you blocked people? And if you have, generally, who has it been?
I've never blocked anyone.
Oh my goodness. The feeling of that must be different. I don't know how that works. But go ahead.
Well, I do want to see everything, and I definitely have my fair share of people yelling at me and being angry and throwing hate my way and threats and whatnot. But I do want to see it. I mean, I think the only thing we control is how we react to these things, and I want to at least see it so that I can see what patterns are behind all the actions and have some empathy for where people are coming from, but also realizing that technology makes it easier to be a jerk and to try to shut someone down. And when we build technology that unfairly amplifies more of that, and that's everything that people see, it can really drown people and their desire to participate in the first place. But so that's what we're aware of, and that's what we're trying to protect. But I need to feel that directly as well, just to understand, just a sliver of what people might experience in different ways on our service every single day.
One thing I think's been very interesting just recently, obviously you and Mark Benioff have exchanged some messages back and forth on social media about Prop C. We don't need to get into the exact details, but do you see that as an example of how this works? This is just two people expressing their opinions, happen to be very famous people, that this is the social media platform the way you see it working?
I think there's a lot of benefit to conversations going out in the public, and for people to see these conversations instead of a private venue, that they're out open to the entire world to view, to see, and maybe even participate in. I think it's important because we all get to learn very quickly. So, I come from an ethos of punk rock back in the day and open source, where people would just put out their work and they would work in public, and that means making mistakes in public and failing in public and admitting to those mistakes in public. And I'm just fascinated by this idea of working in public, because I think it's definitely been the way that I have learned the most from others. And it's definitely been the most transformational aspect of my own career and my own work, is to see how other people work and how other people think and what they do when something goes wrong. To be able to share that, to show that vulnerability, and to realize, like, look, in the moment, it might not be correct, but what is important is the trend. And if people have a learning mindset that, they're actively recognizing mistakes and they're learning from, and you can see that out in the open, that's just such a powerful concept and such a powerful idea. And I think it makes the world better. So I would love to see more conversations like the one around Prop C and like around, any government and government's policies out in the open, because we all get to learn, we all get to participate, we all get to debate. And I think that allows us to progress a lot faster and better.
Are you and Benioff mad at each other, or do you have a relationship beyond social media?
I'm not mad at him. I just disagree, and I think it's important to be able to see that, and to, if I'm wrong about this, I want to make sure that I admit that and I work to fix it. And I think it's important to put a stake in the ground and then learn, get all the feedback and learn from what position you hold one day, and to be able to show how that might evolve over time based on the public conversation.
We're going to take a quick break to talk about our friends over at Hims. 66% of men lose their hair by age 35. Some of you Warriors fans probably have a joke about this regarding a certain Los Angeles Laker, but it's not funny when it happens to you. The thing is, when you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. And why do guys turn to weird solutions, or even worse, do nothing, when they can turn to medicine and science? forhims.com, a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, and sexual wellness for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical-grade solutions to treat hair loss. No waiting room, no awkward doctor visits, and save hours by going to forhims.com. It's insanely easy. Answer a few quick questions, a doctor reviews them, and can prescribe you products which are shipped directly to your door. Order now, and TK's listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today right now while supplies last. See website for full details. This would cost hundreds of dollars if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. So, go to forhims.com/TK. That's forhims.com/TK. forhims.com/TK. We're going to take another quick break to talk about our friends over at Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. They strive to make financial services work for everybody, not just the wealthy. The Robinhood app is insanely easy to use, which is fantastic for a novice like myself. Other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, but Robinhood doesn't charge commission fees. Trade stocks and keep all of your profits. There's easy to understand charts and market data. Place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. The Robinhood web platform also lets you view stock collections and analyst ratings of buy, hold, sell for every stock. Learn how to invest as you build your portfolio. Discover new stocks and track favorite companies with personalized news feeds. Custom notifications for price movements so you never miss the right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving our listeners a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. Sign up at tkshow.robinhood.com. That's tkshow.robinhood.com. And now, back to the TK Show.
Well, let's turn this to sports, which is what I wanted the show to be about. But I think this is very similar. I think anyone can tell from my Twitter feed or what I do that this is what I believe in. I do believe in open source transparency. You can see me think and go back and forth with people. Maybe it gets a little bit heated, maybe it doesn't, but it's all about the ideas. It's all about getting to some conclusion, and if the conclusion is a little bit off, you go to another conclusion. And it's a discussion, it's part of the rambling way we deal with sports. And I think sports and Twitter is such a unique kind of relationship. And have you seen sports, and I would say specifically the NBA, become maybe the model of where has taken Twitter to certain places, has been kind of the paramount accent for what your company's doing and how people perceive it?
I mean, it's an interesting point, an interesting idea, because one's Twitter experience varies completely by what you follow. And, to be honest, we've made it very hard for people to follow an interest. Like if you're interested in the NBA or basketball more broadly, you have to go and do all the work to find and follow all the accounts associated with basketball. So you find your favorite players and your favorite teams and your favorite coach, and of course your favorite commentators as well, and journalists, and it's a ton of work, and you might miss out on some of the real jewels within there. One of my favorite accounts associated with Warriors basketball is Draymond Green's mother.
Yep. Oh yeah.
She's she's always on, and like watching a game with her is just so much more entertaining because she's constantly trash talking all the other NBA moms and even Draymond when he's on the court. And I find that insight so interesting, but also so personal. I mean, this is her son, and you get this inside view of how she thinks, and you wouldn't know that unless you had to, unless you knew how to seek her out in the first place. So we've made people do a lot of work to get a lot of the value that someone like you might find on Twitter, because you put so much time and effort into it. And we think there's an opportunity to make that a whole lot easier. Just by following a topic or an interest instead of a number of accounts, we can introduce you to everything that's interesting, but also that might be on the edge, that might make the experience a whole lot entertaining. So, there's all these different Twitters. NBA Twitter is a Twitter that obviously has a lot of insight and a lot of activity. Politics Twitter can be a little bit dark sometimes, and can be very contentious. K-pop Twitter is huge. So there's all these different universes of Twitter, and really depending on who you follow and what you're interested in, you almost have a completely different experience.
Who are your, other than Mary Babers Green, who are your other favorite followers? That doesn't have to be in the NBA, but what are things that you find the most interesting when you're just kind of going through your Twitter feed?
Well, I have to say my mom. She's and not just because she's my mom, but she's managed to use it in a very interesting way, which is, she says good morning every day. She takes a picture of the sunrise and says good night and takes a picture of the sunset. But she's found all these women all around the world who wake up and have a cup of coffee, and they just talk about having coffee in the morning. And these are not necessarily people that she knew or she had in her address book of her phone. She discovered them through Twitter, and it just forms these bonds, which is interesting. You can see people in a very different light. And Elon has been amazing on the service as well, because as you said, you just get this raw sense of how he thinks and how he acts and how he feels. And that's just an insight that you can't get from a composed image or a video. I just think there's such a directness between text and the way someone actually thinks, and that the amount of insight and kind of what you see in a person is just on another level. So being able to see someone like Elon and how he thinks about the world and how he jokes about the world and just all the pranks that goes along with who he is and how he tries to manage everything that's going on in his life and his work is really cool. And I learned a lot from that insight that I don't think I could find anywhere else.
I'm thinking about a particular moment when the DeAndre Jordan signed, agreement with the Mavericks, and then the Clippers came out there and recruited him, and they're sending out all these emojis, and he reneges, and he goes back to the. Do you remember that moment? Was that kind of something that you went, wow, this is all happening on my Twitter feed?
Oh, it was really cool. I mean, just to again see that conversation in the public when in the past all that happened in the private, and you would only see the output, you would only see the result, but to be able to see the thinking and the machinations of the negotiations and just everyone jumping in and having their own point of view is really cool. And then of course all the jokes and all the memes and
emojis
and everything that
emojis
and all the emojis and everything that follows just makes it magical if just for a moment. And but more importantly than anything else, I think, is you get to see how these people think in a very raw way, and I think it's really it gives you a lot of empathy for who they are, and they're not just someone who you see on a court, but you can actually get in their head a bit and see them as another human, just like you, struggling in different ways, being happy in different ways because of different things, but human nonetheless.
Hey, did I hear it correctly? You were at Kevin Durant's 30th birthday party? How was that?
I was. Kevin is an amazing person, and just someone that inspires me a lot every day. I was at the game last night, and just to watch him and the team in action, I just learned something from every single game, especially that team, because it's not just focused on the individuals. It's a team that feels like they put a premium on the dynamic between the players, mm-hmm. and truly in that phrase of strength in numbers, they really show it on the court, and there's just so much support that just is evident in every move they make, and so much respect and admiration between the players, and it comes out in every single action they take.
Kevin's a really interesting guy. He's really embraced the Silicon Valley culture and the business. I mean, do you think Silicon Valley has a unique view of Durant just because he's gone so far to try to meet it? And I'm sure Silicon Valley's gone to meet him in a pretty good embrace here.
I think in any industry, we get better when we have different perspectives, and Kevin's perspective is so different and unique from a typical quote unquote Silicon Valley experience, whether you were born here or you work here. So being able to hear from that and for him to be able to participate and share his own thinking has been awesome. And to see what he thinks is interesting and cool, and what he sees as the next big thing is a good learning moment for all of us.
Think he's staying with the Warriors after this season?
I hope so. I think it's a great team dynamic, and it just gets better and better and stronger.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to ask you. We could go on for hours. I know this. I'll just tweet stuff, I guess, after this. So will you. But I want to wrap this up by asking you the question that I ask everybody at the end of my show, and I'm sure people want to hear this one. They would be. I know my producer Ben Cruz would be really mad at me if I didn't ask you this one. Jack Dorsey, what's your favorite restaurant?
Tommy's Mexican on Geary.
No, my.
It's between 23rd and 24th in the outer Richmond. I love it. It's got this cool family vibe. It's loud, and food comes fast, and it's just a great place to have a conversation and have some great food.
Yeah, what's your favorite dish there?
The 2 enchilada meal, but everything on the menu is pretty good. I like to switch it up.
All right. Well, there you go. We got that. That's an original. We haven't had that one before. I love hearing new restaurants mentioned or ones that we haven't mentioned before. And Jack, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the conversation. I'm sure I will see you at a Warriors game very soon. I wasn't on it, so you got me. I wasn't at last night's game, so you got me on that one. But I'm sure we will see you down the road, and I really appreciate you being on the show and having this conversation.
I hope so. Thanks for the time.
You got it, Jack. Everybody, that's Jack Dorsey. And this is the TK Show for today. Thanks.